What am I saying again?
This is MPW.
MPW.
The podcast.
With your host, Xylo Aria.
Cool.
A podcast about music production
for the everyday musician,
where we learn from experienced studio engineers and each other.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the MPW podcast. I'm your host, Xylo Aria, and today I'm here with Sara Carter. So Sara is a mixing engineer and mastering engineer, and she's previously worked at the BBC Maida Vale Studios in London and has worked with so many amazing artists, including Adele, John Legend, Lady Gaga, Kasabian, and so many more. So thanks so much for joining us today, Sara.
Thank you for asking. It's great. It's great to be here.
Yeah, lovely to have you. So it's midday there, isn't it? So how's your morning been so far?
It's been really great. We're fortunate here in the UK to be having our summer, so it is lovely and sunny, and the birds are out singing, and it's really lovely.
Good.
Given our current situation in the world.
Have you had a chance to go outside?
Not much, only in our garden, really.
Okay.
We haven't. We've been very good and stayed at home. I don't think we've been out now for 5 weeks or something like that.
Really?
It's been, we kind of.
Wow.
But then, the strange thing is, with our industry, with our business, or my business, mixing and mastering online, I've been working from home for years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's no different. I've been geared up for it for years.
You know what? The last episode actually that I was chatting to Damian Lewis, a producer in the US, and he was saying, I've been in training for this for a long time, so totally in my element. So it's funny actually in that sense. Same for you. You're just built for this.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Good to hear. So I'd love to start by hearing a bit about your journey and what got you into audio engineering and where it all started for you.
Yeah, I've always loved music, and I think that stems from growing up in a musical household. My mum, who's no longer with us, was a singer in a jazz trio before I was born, and a little bit into that. So we're talking about the mid-60s here. Mm-hmm. And she used to do the working men's clubs around the north of England, and she actually had a little bit of success with that.
Cool.
But because of that, we always had audio stuff around the house. We had microphones that I was fascinated with, because you see, all your pop star idols all, singing into microphones, and we had one in the house, and we had microphone stands, we had amplifier, like my mum had Vox combo amplifiers that she would use as a PA system. So we just had all this stuff around the house, and I just found it really, really kind of fascinating. And coupled with that, I grew up in a pub, so we always had the jukebox on, and so music has just threaded its way in and out of my life in various forms, and it was kind of natural for me for it to play such a big part in my life. And stemming from that was a love of hi-fi. Then when I got my first job when I was 16 years old, my money I saved up and I bought hi-fi amplifier and speakers and the best record player the turntable that I could afford, having previously had to put up with music centres from the 70s. I don't know if you even know what that is. I don't think
I have no idea what that is
anymore. It was just like a huge lump of, MDF type wood furniture that had a turntable on it, and it had a cassette deck in it, and it had a tuner in it, and so you could get the radio and you could record on the cassette from your LPs, and Yeah.
Wow.
So
It
I
sounds
was
massive.
I just always had music and always had a guitar as well.
Yeah.
There was always a guitar stuck in the corner, usually covered in dust. But every now and again, I would have a go and pick it up. And in the 80s, which is where my love of music really kicked off, I was inspired to pick up the guitar and play along to my favourite band at the time. And that was the start of it, really, was picking up the guitar again in the sort of early 80s and learning how to play it properly. Mm-hmm. And then in later years, sort of 10 years later, still playing the guitar, but quite badly, but wanting to get better.
Yeah.
And that led me to buying a 4-track, like a Porter Studio, so that I could record myself playing the guitar along with, you used to get CDs with backing tracks on them in guitar magazines.
Okay.
So if you're into playing the guitar, you used to buy, this is, it's all before the internet.
Yeah.
You would
Fair enough.
buy a magazine and follow along with the tutorials, put the CD in your CD player and play along. Well, I wanted to kind of hear what I sounded like from an outside perspective rather than in my head. Mm-hmm. So I bought a 4-track to record the backing track and then me playing guitar, and that was it. I just loved it, and the next thing you know, I've bought gear and I've turned my bedroom into a home studio, and I'm recording local bands. So
Wow.
that was the mid-90s, and I got bit by the bug in a big way. So decided to change career and see if I could make a go of it in the music business. And that was kind of late on. I was in my sort of early 30s when I decided to do that. So,
amazing. That's really cool to hear, actually, that you kind of started off in something else. What was that, if you don't mind?
I worked in the motor trade. I worked in Volkswagen and Audi dealership, and I used to sell car parts to the public and to the mechanics. Well, I didn't sell it to the mechanics. I sold it to the service department where the mechanics used to do their thing. But I learned my first job really that's all I did. That from 16 to being 33, I just worked in the motor trade and sold car parts to whoever wanted to buy them.
That's amazing. So that is very different, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a big decision, but things just kind of fell into place, and the opportunity presented itself to me, and I thought, hell yeah, this is what I'd want to do. My gosh, I love doing this. Why? Yeah, let's do it. But I really felt as though I needed to go to a college and learn audio engineering properly. I thought to give myself the best possible chance at my age then, I really needed to get the best grounding possible and the best knowledge that I could. And so I signed up for SAE in London, did their audio engineering diploma, and shortly after that was very lucky and thankful to get a placement at the BBC as a sound engineer in radio. So
amazing,
which is the best place possible for working with music.
Yeah.
I didn't particularly want to work in TV. TV sound didn't inspire me really. So being able to work on music from all, well, you named some of the people I've worked with at the start of the podcast. So
amazing.
Yeah, I loved it.
That's so cool. That's really cool. And I love how you kind of took a chance in a way and kind of jumped into something at a time that's maybe later than a lot of people, and just kind of gone for it and made it happen.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I did work really hard to prepare for the interview. I didn't want to have that chance. I felt as though actually it was my only chance, because prior to the BBC, I'd tried to get into recording studios, and you either had to go in as an intern and work for free, which I couldn't afford to do. I was, I had commitments. I wasn't a young person straight out of uni or anything. I had a house and I had bills. Mm-hmm. So I needed to earn money. So I've the recording studios were either, as I say, internships or very low paid. And I also felt as though I was a little bit too old to try and get into a recording studio at that time.
Yeah.
Although I didn't look it, I looked younger than my years, but I just wasn't comfortable in kind of.
Yeah.
So the BBC was the best opportunity, and they're a fantastic employer. So
Yeah.
I was very happy.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's really cool. So today we're talking about headphones. So something I'm sure you've used a lot of over the years.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And it's something that I think sometimes you don't really think too much about when you are going out and starting your first studio. But it's something that often you might buy and you'll be using that for many years. In fact, the ones that I use are the first pair that I've bought and I use them every day. So I had no idea really what the point of studio headphones are or you know the different types, and people were telling me all these things about open back, closed back, whatever, and I had no idea. So I think it would be really cool to kind of go into that so that people can maybe have a bit more of an idea before they go out and get something. So I guess a good place to start, well, the first thing we usually do is define the topic, but I'm pretty sure everyone's used headphones sometime in their life before. But we can go into the types of headphones. So what would you say are the main types of headphones that we use while creating music or in a live music setting?
Yeah, there are two types in creating music in what we do in studios or live. Mm-hmm. And they are as you've mentioned, open back and closed back. Mm-hmm. So open back are, it's as it sounds. The back of the headphone or the headphone cup is open to the atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And closed back, are closed. So you've got a much more intimate experience with closed back headphones. Yeah. But the difference between the two is that closed back headphones isolate you to some extent from the outside world, mm-hmm. and isolate not only sound coming in. If, for example, I don't know, the first thing that comes into mind is if you're on the tube or, on the subway or whatever, and, you're trying to block sound coming in, mm-hmm. but also sound coming out if you're in a studio situation. Mm-hmm. So you might not want your click track, for example, to be heard on the microphone that you're recording that lovely acoustic guitar with. So closed back are great for sound isolation. And then the other type, open back, I tend to enjoy music more on open back headphones because the sound stage is much larger, because the sound, I guess it's just allowed to kind of escape the cans, and you just get much more of a realistic feel to the music when you're listening to music on open back headphones. And going back to hi-fi, talking about hi-fi again, open back headphones are sort of the premium type of headphones. They're the top quality, where you get the best possible sound quality from open back headphones. So yeah, there's a place for both in mixing and recording music.
Okay. One thing that I think is interesting to talk about is what's the difference between these kind of headphones and, say, your commercial headphones that people would buy and listen to music on? Yeah.
Really, commercial headphones tend to be what I say hyped. They're kind of hyped up in that they've got the low end is really accentuated, the high end might be, or sort of mid-range might be accentuated around about, sort of the 2K region. So they've been tuned by the manufacturer to what they think sounds awesome. And a lot of manufacturers have their own signature tuning as well. So, like, for example, I know that I like Sennheiser headphones because not necessarily for studio work, but for personal listening pleasure. Okay. I just know I like how they tune their headphones. So commercial headphones may give you a false representation of what you're actually hearing if you were to use them in a studio environment. Mm-hmm. So studio cans have a flatter frequency response, perhaps don't sound as appealing, but they will give you a true representation of what you're recording or what you're listening to or mixing, for example. So, yeah, studio cans, good studio headphones will give you a flatter frequency response than commercial headphones.
Okay, yeah. And I guess when you're creating music, that's what you want rather than making it sound more pretty than it actually is.
Yeah. Say if you used some commercial cans and you're mixing music on, let's say, Beats, which I've got a super low-end boost to them. When you're mixing, you might think, oh, gosh, my kick drum and the bass guitar sound really overpowering. I need to cut out lots of low frequency. And you then take your mix that you've mixed on Beats to a regular hi-fi situation or any other setup, to be honest, and all of a sudden your mix sounds weak and thin. Because you've pulled all that bass, all that low frequency energy, low frequency content out of your mix because your headphones have told you the wrong thing. And so studio monitors, studio headphones don't tend to do that in as such a drastic way as commercial cans do.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a really good example that you use there and a really kind of clear reason why you want a flat frequency range in your headphones. And so you mentioned the two main types of headphones, so your closed back and your open back. Would you say that one lends itself better to certain types of music creation or settings that you'd be in music?
Yeah, I think closed back would be better for a recording or a live music situation or a DJing situation if that's your thing. So anywhere where you need to isolate the outside world so that you can concentrate and focus on what you're doing in the headphones. So, and also that situation I mentioned earlier about the click track bleeding into the microphone. So closed back are definitely where you need to isolate yourself from the outside world and the sounds, or where you need to stop sound leaking out of your headphones into the microphones that happen to be around you at the time. Open back are great for checking your mixers on. So if you want to listen in more detail to your mixers, if you want to check the reverb tails, for example, on the vocal, and you want to check the length of the reverb, sometimes it can be easier to hear that in headphones than in studio monitors, just so that you can dial in the correct kind of type of reverb you want. And also, if you need to mix in a room that is too small for studio monitors and you have no choice but to mix on headphones, then open back. I would recommend open back for that because they give you that more that larger soundstage that I mentioned earlier. So it would just give you a better feedback on what you're doing in the mix. I would always recommend mixing on studio monitors over and above headphones anyway. But headphones are a great way to check your mix and to check the low end on your mix.
Yeah.
Because your headphones will often go lower in frequency than your studio monitors will.
Right.
Not a lot of people realise that, but your studio monitors, typical studio monitors that you might use at home, might only go down to 50 or 60 hertz.
Okay.
So you don't hear, there's a lot of stuff happens below that, at 30, 40 and 30 in the kick drum and bass area that you really might want to kind of get an idea of what's happening down there. So using headphones, you'll be able to pick up that. The headphones tend to go down to about 10 or 15 hertz. So
right. Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, it just help you with your low end.
Yeah, that's really good to know. Actually, speaking of checking your mixes, how do you go about doing that? Do you have kind of a method that you use to make sure it's sounding good everywhere? Yeah,
I use reference tracks, commercial reference tracks, and I use different sets of speakers. So in my studio, I've got Oh gosh, I've got quite a few different sets of speakers, to be honest.
I can see a couple in the background.
Yeah, I've got my regular studio monitors, and I will mix on those till I get to a certain point in the mix where I think things are starting to come together. I think, oh yeah, this is we're getting somewhere now. And then I'll switch over and listen on different monitors just to give myself a different perspective. I've got some like cheap PC monitors that a lot of people listen to music on these days. So I like to know what my mix is doing on those. I've got a Bluetooth speaker that I will send my mix out to. I've got a kitchen radio. I've got that I'll send my mix out to.
Yeah.
And then I've got my headphones. So what I'll do is I'll just compare my mix to a commercial reference track that's of a similar style. And often my clients will send me a reference track. So it's great for me because then I know how they would love their mix to sound. So it gives me something to aim for them.
Yeah.
And then I'll use headphones to flick between the two, do some real critical listening.
To be honest, I find the process of sending a reference track so stressful. Every time I've sent a track off to be mixed and I'm asked for a reference track, which is completely fair enough. But I find it so hard to find a track that has all the elements kind of the way you want them. Sometimes you'll really like how the vocals sound in something, or sometimes you'll really like how the drums sound in something else. And a couple of times I've sent a reference track and then it's come back probably not that far from the reference track, but it's not really what I want in my head. Do you have any kind of advice on that?
Yeah, if my clients I totally understand what you're saying. You can't possibly expect one track to encompass everything that you have in your head for your own music. So I will say, send me a track where you particularly like the kick drum sound, or whatever's important to the artist really. What is the main focus for the mix? What is it? What's most important for the artist to have come through in the mix? And then send me a reference for that. So if you love the guitar sound of one track but you love the drums from another, then just send me both. Or if you love the vocal sound, sometimes I've had half a dozen tracks sent to me that have highlighted specific areas that they want me to look at.
Yeah.
But when it comes to mastering, that's a different thing. I just like one for mastering, and that is just where I can get an idea for the frequency response, the frequency balance.
Yeah.
Some people like really bassy music. Some people hate lots of high end. So I need to know that when I'm mastering music, so that I go down the right path, down the right road, and ultimately it means less revisions, which is great for the artist as well as me. So.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's helpful. I guess when you're going shopping for a pair of headphones, what would you say are the things that you need to think about when you're doing that?
I think it's important to recognise the type of headphone you need. Now you know, okay, what environment do I work in? Do I work on stage? Do I work in a music studio? Am I a music producer that makes my own music? So do you need an all-round set of cans? Or are you quite happy to buy two sets of cans even, to do different jobs, which I've done. But really it's first off considering the environment you work in and deciding which type of cans to buy, closed or open. Then secondly, that knocks on then into things like how long do you need the cable to be? If you're a musician, plugging into your interface, you might need quite a long. It depends on your studio. Do you need a longer cable or a shorter cable? Do you hate curly cables? I hate curly cables. They just catch everything.
You know what? I've got curly cables here, and it catches my hair daily.
Well, there you go.
There you go, indeed.
So Then that leads on then to the plug. You know, what do you need to be able to have a 1/4-inch jack and the 3.5 mil? I've mixed imperial and metric measurements there.
That's
but,
all right. We know what you mean.
do you need both? Do you need to plug into your phone or into your laptop as well as into your interface? So just the practical side of things like that. But then if you're running into, it depends what you're going to use to drive your headphones. So are you going to be working from a laptop? If so, you need headphones that don't need much power to drive them to get a great quality sound. So that's where you start talking about impedance and looking at the ohms measurement on the cans. And that might be like DJ cans, for example. Mm-hmm. I would imagine, I'm not a DJ and I'm not into that sort of music at all. So I would imagine that they're working from laptops a lot of the time and so need cans that are easy to drive and sound great and go loud enough as well. So a lower impedance doesn't need as much power as a high impedance set of cans.
Okay.
And a higher impedance you would typically find on studio headphones.
Oh, okay.
Because the assumption is that you're going to drive them from an amplifier, a decent amplifier, in your interface or from your mixing console or your headphone amplifier. So it's just knowing how powerful you need the cans to be, and doing a bit of research really, and with that in mind, and deciding what cans you need from that point of view. And then the other thing is comfort, of course, because I struggled for years because I wear glasses, and I've had no end of problems with the ear cups pressing on my glasses, and usually it's when my glasses, as glasses do, go over your ears at the back of my ears. When the headphones are pushing on them, it just gets really painful really quickly, which was a big thing when I was at the BBC, because we used to do loads of work on headphones at the BBC.
Yeah.
And I just was forever rubbing the back of my ears. It was just so painful. But finding cans that are as comfortable to wear for long periods as you can, and then you start getting into over-ear and on-ear types. Mm-hmm. You've seen those on-ear types. You are better for portability, so you see a lot of people out and about perhaps wearing those. And I don't think you'd necessarily find them in a studio production facility, because people want that isolation, which you get from over-ear ear cups, far greater than you would for on-ear. So there's lots of different things really to consider, but the main things would be what sort of level of isolation do you need, and what are you going to be driving your cans with? Are you going to use an amplifier, or are you going to use a laptop or a phone? So, and then buy accordingly.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned you have to kind of think about what you'll be using them for, but say you're starting a home studio and you want one pair of headphones that's kind of do what you need it to do. What would you recommend? Would you recommend it open or closed back?
I think you probably have to go with closed, because a good all-round set of cans for recording and mixing would have to be closed, because you couldn't really record wearing a set of open back cans, because the bleed, you just pick up the bleed in the microphones, and it's just would be pretty unworkable, or it would need an awful lot more editing in the quiet spots. So you'd have to go, I think, with a closed set of cans, and a good, I'm trying to think, a good set for that could be, I think it's Audio Technica MTX 50s or something. I can't quite remember the model number, but the Audio Technica, it's a 50X anyway in the model number.
Okay.
They're really good. And then some Yeah, they're my tip actually for a good set of all-round cans, and they're reasonably priced as well.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're just starting out, they're great, and they kind of got twisty ear cups for DJs. You know, so you can wear them off one ear. So they're a really great set of cans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, actually, my next question was going to be, what's your favorite pair of headphones? But maybe that's a good one to start out with. Do you have a different one that you use?
Yeah, I've had those. I've had those Audio Technica cans, but I now have 2 sets of cans that I stick with, and my favourite set is my current set, which are from Focal, the French manufacturer, studio monitor, hi-fi speaker manufacturer, and they are the Clear Pros. Focal, I think that's what they're called, Clear Professional.
Okay.
And they are quite pricey. Mm-hmm. So they're perhaps not for the beginner or not for the first purchase. They're open back cans, and they just sound amazing. Having had all these years' experience of listening to hi-fi headphones as well as studio headphones, they just sound amazing. The detail through them is just a joy to listen to.
Yeah.
But before those, I used to have HD 600s or the HD 650s from Sennheiser.
Okay.
They're much more reasonable. You can pick those up secondhand really cheaply.
Yeah.
You would need an amplifier of some sort to get the best out of them. I don't think they're passable on a laptop, but I would recommend getting an amplifier of some sort to drive them.
Okay.
But yeah, and then you see, I haven't really got one favourite.
Okay, so yep, multiple. Go on.
Finally, for convenience.
Yeah.
I've got the AirPods Pro, however you say it.
Okay.
The Apple, the new
right.
ones that with the noise cancelling, and they're just so convenient. I put them in my pocket, and I can just whip them out if I want to listen to something on my laptop where something. I might be in a noisy environment. I might be in the kitchen cooking, I could just pop them in and they sound great. They've got a really balanced frequency response.
Really?
So they're really great for listening. Yeah, they're pretty good for listening to music. They're not, as I say, they're not Beats, so you're not going to get that kind of low-end kick from them, but they're not bad at all, and the noise cancelling is really good on them. So
okay.
Yeah.
But would
I like those too.
You wouldn't use them for mixing?
No, they're my everyday ones for podcast listening and watching YouTube videos and everyday stuff.
Yeah, actually that could be an interesting thing to ask or talk about, is why would you not use noise cancelling headphones when you're mixing? Because it sounds like the kind of ideal thing.
Yeah. But the thing with noise cancelling is it's almost like you're in an anechoic chamber. It just sucks the air out, and it's really isolating.
Yeah.
And I think it would send you mad after a while. You could use it periodically.
Yeah.
But what you've not got, I haven't found anywhere, is you've not got any studio cans, studio headphones that are also noise cancelling. There just aren't any. I could be wrong, but I don't think there are. You don't get that flat frequency response coupled with noise cancelling. It's just not out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have no idea about this, but someone told me once that how they achieve the noise cancelling is by whatever noise is out there kind of playing the opposite kind of range. Yeah.
Yeah, phase cancellation.
Yeah, which I guess is not really what you want when you're mixing, to have a kind of added thing in there. Maybe
stuff.
Yeah. So maybe that's one reason, but maybe they're working on something, who knows.
Yeah, well that's it. I'm sure it'll happen one day.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I think that gives us a really good start on kind of everything that someone needs to consider when they're going out and looking for a pair of headphones to use in a music creation setting. But before I go into a couple of questions that we have from the audience, I just wanted to understand a bit more about, what challenges have you faced in your career, or if you have any advice for new people kind of going into the area of audio engineering.
I feel quite lucky and quite blessed. I haven't really had any major challenges, only other than my own head at certain times.
Gosh. Isn't that always?
Yeah. I mean, the reason I've been quite open about this, the reason I left the BBC, which I didn't realise at the time, but I know now, was imposter syndrome. So I just didn't feel as though I was worthy of being, I thought I was going to get found out for being rubbish at my job, which I know I wasn't.
Yeah.
And people were very shocked when I left, but yeah. So that's the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge today was learning that about myself and coming to terms with it, and still battling with it today, every day really. But I think it's quite common for creative people to experience that in some form or another.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's music or whether you write books or whether you make films, or it's just the way we're wired, I think. Yeah.
I wonder why that is the case, because, I mean, I know I feel it, and I know everyone that I speak to feels it as well. And especially, starting this podcast, some of the people I've spoken to, like yourself and a couple of other people, who've worked with, like, the artists that you've worked with and won incredible awards and things. And to hear that people at that level are facing it as well, it's just, you wonder, why do we feel that way? Is it everyone, the people that are kind of at the peak or whatever we call it, everyone's feeling that way? And do you have any tips? I mean, I guess you said you're still feeling it, but a way to manage it.
The thing is recognizing it now. I know it for what it is, and I recognize when I'm doing it to myself. So what I do is probably a bit woo-woo, but I keep like a journal every day.
Oh, that's awesome.
I use it to keep me on track with tasks that I want to do for the day, but I also use it to jot down any thoughts or inspirations that come my way throughout the day. And part of that is every day I will try and find something that I've been successful at.
I love that. That's so nice.
So yeah, it kind of works for me, so that it's a daily reminder that no, I am worthy. I am good at what I do, and it's just it works really well for me. So every day I'll think, at the end of the day, think about how the day's gone and what there must be something that went well today. What was it? And then I usually find something, and that's a great way for keeping on top of the old mind monkeys.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I'm all for these woo-woo techniques, as you call them, but it's you know what, that's probably more helpful than like improving your skill to no end, because some of the people I've spoken to are amazing at what they do, and they're like, oh, but maybe I should upskill more and do this other thing to get me to somewhere. And I was like, I mean, everyone knows that you're amazing at what you do. I don't really think personally that you need this piece of paper that says you can do that.
Yes.
But then we kind of feel like it's kind of for ourselves more than anyone else, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's it can be tough, but once you start recognizing it, then you can deal with it. You can do something about it.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know if you've read a book called The Artist's Way.
No, I don't know that one.
Yeah, you should check it out. It's really nice, and I think a really good read for anyone that's in the creative space. But one thing that the author, I've forgotten the name, but mentions is this thing called the morning pages. So first thing in the morning, just write, like brain dump 3 pages and just get everything that's in your head down so then you can kind of get on with your day without all that stuff kind of in your head.
Stuff going on. Yes, yeah.
It takes a while. It takes about half an hour to write 3 pages. But when I started actually doing that, it was so nice, and I feel like I came up with all these cool ideas of things to do with life, I guess. But it's just really nice to do that. I've unfortunately fallen out of that habit a while ago, but when I did it, it was useful. So
Yes.
I think it's just finding something like this that helps you and kind of building it into your routine.
Into your day, yeah. That's all it takes is just a simple prompt in a diary or a journal, or, I mean, I like to write it on paper with a pen.
Yeah.
Because I think that helps. I don't know, something happens when you actually physically touching paper and writing. I don't know, your brain tends to sort of assimilate it to at a deeper level, I think, when you write it down on paper. So I quite like doing that. And then I like going back, flicking through old books and seeing how far I've come, even in just whether it's just the last year or the last 5 years, or, you know. So it's a good habit. It's a good habit to try out. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I will get back into that. So if you have one tip for someone that's getting into audio engineering, what would that be?
I would say to listen to lots of music on whatever it is that you make music on. So it's listening skills, and it's training your ear and actively listening to music on your studio monitors that you're going to be using predominantly, and listen to each aspect of the music. And I think probably it's all you would need to do is just create a playlist in Spotify or Apple Music of some of your favourite music, and just sit and listen to that music on your studio monitors and actively listen to different elements of the songs to figure out what it is that you like about it. And then what will happen is that you'll slowly start to kind of build up this muscle memory for how good music should sound on your system. And so therefore then when you mix on that system, it just kind of automatically happens without you thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I would just say just to keep listening to lots of music on the monitors that you use for your day job or for your hobby, and get to know them well, and it will train your ears at the same time.
Yeah, cool. I think that's really good advice. So lastly, to our questions from the audience. So we have one from a Sara Cross from Cancun in Mexico. So Sara asked, is choosing headphones a personal choice? And how do you know that if it's the right one or if it's not the right one for you?
I think it has to be it is a personal choice, because you've got to like what you're listening to at the end of the day to feel inspired to do what you do. So yes, you've got it. Like, and I said earlier, I like the sound of Sennheiser cans.
Yeah.
So it is a personal choice. And then how do you know if they're not the right pair for you? Then I guess it would be if you're not getting consistent results from them. It depends what you're using them for. If you're using them to mix on, then that's quite easy to check, because your mixers won't translate onto other devices, and it's just not working for you. You can't seem to make them work. So it's easy in that respect. I guess the other thing is is comfort, and if like we've already said, really, wearing them for hours on end and they're giving you headaches, then they're obviously not right for you, and you need to put them on eBay and go out and
something else.
buy yourself buy yourself a different pair and check reviews. Reviews are great for that kind of thing, just because it is kind of one of the major aspects of buying headphones is the comfort factor. So yeah, it's got to fit your head. That's something as well. As women, we tend to have small heads, or smaller heads than men.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And the headphone manufacturers they make their headphones to fit
The average,
everybody.
yeah.
Which
Man.
which tends to be yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned the Focal cans that I use.
Yeah.
They sound amazing, but I look stupid wearing them. They're massive.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't go out wearing them. I can't wear them in public.
No. Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's just, they sound great. I love them, but, they're just, they look massive. So you've obviously they've got to be small enough so that you get a decent seal on them around your ears. But yeah, it can be a bit of a challenge finding a set that's physically the right size for you, being a woman.
Yeah.
So it's great if you can, when we're allowed to go back outside and be humans again and interact with other people, then go out and, go to your favourite headphone shop and try a few on and find a pair that fit, that aren't too snug, but aren't massive as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that because my HD 280s, the Sennheiser, and I love them, but they, like you said, they're giant. I'm a pretty small person and I have a pretty small head, but yeah, they're just massive.
Yeah.
And I have them on the smallest setting and they're pretty much just okay. So if it was any smaller, I think I'd be in trouble. So that's a good point actually. And yeah, one we didn't mention before, but yeah.
Yeah.
And then I've got a question from a Samantha Warren from London. So Sam asked, and I think you did touch on this already, but is there a difference between the type of headphones that are good for DJing and what's good for production? Because she does both.
Yeah. Yeah, we did kind of talk about that. I mean, with DJ headphones, I think, again, I'm imagining because I don't really know, because I've never DJ'd and I don't know any DJs. So, but I would imagine to do what you do, you want to fully experience the music in the most enjoyable way possible. Mm-hmm. So maybe that more hyped might work in your advantage, where you're hearing lots of bass, and I guess you need to hear the beats to do the beat matching thing. And so, yeah, the studio headphones are going to be more balanced and not going to be quite as low-end heavy as a DJ might need. And also that thing where you can twist the ear cups so that you can wear one can on, one can off when you're DJing, which I haven't really seen in what you would call or what you would consider studio headphones. Other than the Audio-Technica range that I mentioned earlier.
I think these do that. Oh, yeah, they do. I've never really understood why, but that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it helps with portability as well, doesn't it? You can fold them up.
Oh, yeah, folding up is definitely
if you're
good.
travelling around as a DJ, then, you've got loads of stuff. You've got your flight cases to carry and record cases or whatever. Then, cans that fold up into the smallest possible size can be handy.
Yeah, I think that answers her question. So that pretty much takes us to the end. So thanks so much, Sara. That was really useful. And yeah, I wish I'd had this chat before I went shopping. But yeah, I think it would give people a lot to think about and provide some guidance before making a purchase. So thanks so much for your time. It's been lovely chatting.
Yes, yeah, and you as well. Yeah, it's been great fun. Yeah.
So are you doing much else today? Continuing working in your studio?
Yeah, I've got a video to edit, which I'm going to do this afternoon. I recently started a YouTube channel to help people with mixing.
Cool.
And so
what's the YouTube channel called?
It's Simply Mixing.
Simply Mixing.
So
great.
Simply Mixing. And I've only got about 10 videos on there at the moment.
That's all right.
I try to do a video a week, but it's quite hard when you've got a studio business to run as well.
Yeah.
So I've had a bit of a gap the last 2 or 3 weeks, But I managed to get a video recorded this morning, going to edit it this afternoon and get it published this week. I've got a video actually on headphones, so if anybody
Great,
wants to
yes.
know any more about my thoughts on closed back and open back cans and when not to use them, then that video can be found on my channel if anyone wants to check it out.
Yeah. Sounds good. Cool.
But yeah, that's my day.
Sounds good. All right. Well, enjoy that. And thanks again for your time and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.